reducing inequalities and inequities by empowering and protecting marginalized communities. Now, in many organizations, achieving true diversity, equity, inclusivity, that's DEI, and a sense of belonging remains a challenge. Despite efforts to implement policies and initiatives, barriers persist that hinder the full participation and advancement of marginalized groups. Addressing these challenges effectively requires identifying and implementing best practices that foster an inclusive culture where all individuals feel valued, respected, and empowered to contribute. In 2 days' time, the Sustainabiz Consulting will host the 2024 Botswana Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Summit to help in addressing issues around sustainable development. I'm joined in studio this morning by Boitumelo Marumo, who's the Business Development and Marketing out at Sustainabiz. Boitumelo, good morning and thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, what are the key barriers preventing organizations from achieving diversity, equity, inclusivity, and belonging?
But before I get to there, I would just like to briefly explain it from the context of Botswana in a way that everybody can be able to understand. So, diversity, we're talking about, for example, we have various ethnic groups in Botswana, even races in Botswana, and it's even seen more now with the blue, the black, and the white, and then the explanation of the black and the white. It shows you that racial unity that is happening. Although Setswana is largely spoken Botswana, but hona le dipuo tse dingwe na re bua ka diversity re batla gore le tsone di buiwe di rutwe go dikweleng jalo jalo. And then when we move to the inclusivity part, re lebeletse gore yes, we're diverse, but ya no re sentse re kopane ha re lebeletse ngwa ya rena re lebeletse botho kana botho e bua ka tlotlo botho gape itlhele e bua gape apart from respecting it's talking about that community, that dignity that comes with inclusivity, and then it comes with equity as well. I believe equity law, it has both as a cultural value and norm. It's equity should have fair access to either opportunity or to either education, etc., regardless gore o tswa go backgrounding and tsenyang ibile batho ba ileng gore ba go tlasenyana ba tsholediwe so that it can be gonne le tekatokana yone yeo. And then ha re bua ka tsone bo belonging gore re batho re fa we are sort of together and everybody feels like they have a place and everybody feels like they are contributing le gore ba radio ba utliwa. Yeah, no, when I go back to your question, the organization se preventang the organization achieve diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So sometimes unconscious bias. Kana go khona le kgethollo nyana mo sa itemoge so dio tso di khona go iragala le go di organizationeng o lebeletse ha gongwe khantsa phiro kana ke khantsa promotion kana bile interaction hela generally go tirong so or in organizations, let me not just check it up to at work. So lack of representation. So how is na batho ba ileng gore ba diverse coming from different ethnic groups, or is it different races, or is people somebody living with disabilities, or somebody from the LGBTQI community? O khona go itlhela gore lack of that representation ira gore mantswa a bona ska khona go radio kana batho ba ska khona go itemoga, and then it goes back to the unconscious bias. Lack of training, and that's why the Deib Summit, etc. I can go on and on.
Absolutely. All right. I was very excited to hear, what some of those factors would actually be, because I wanted us now to delve into what some of the best practices in this regard or successful strategies have been or can be that organizations can adopt to promote this diversity and inclusion at all levels. You spoke about how you don't want to only single out the workplace, but other organizations across the spectrum. So what strategies or practices, best practices, can organizations adopt really to ensure that they find themselves on the right side of this conversation that we're talking about this morning?
Emma, I'm leading on to that. I think when I've been researching on this topic for the past few months, as we are planning for this conference, when it comes to Ngoya Setswana, we've been really leading on this. It just just that when it comes to cultures, things are very different, and as we rely mostly on oral than written, so it looks like let's look at something that organization can learn from our culture and our society. Madisa, and when it comes to Madisa, I remember reading a book sorry, Mafisa. I don't know why I said that. But yeah, but what I really love about that, it's somebody who has a bit more than the other person. So that you can also have access to the benefits that comes from owning cows or having cows, and you can even tisa from there. And I want to look at organization and some of the good practices that we can be doing. We can just start with inclusive hiring practices. They come from different backgrounds, and people they can come and also be able to introduce diversity into the workplace that you have. Mentorship and sponsorships. When it comes to achieving equity, there can be some sponsorships for they are from marginalized communities, so that they can come to sort of at par maybe and then continuous education. Employee resource groups. This is a situation where you establish sort of resources, or is it policies, is it programs within your organization that are looking at diversity, equity and inclusion, and then it becomes something it is intentional. Oh God, now we have to know. It is something it's always on the table, as much as other things that you do in your organization. And leadership commitment. Committed. The whole organization is following suit. So how we tell the leadership is really committed to achieving diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Push up for the policies. Making sure the department is responsible for hiring or promotion, and even compensation, the label these Deib strategies. Yeah,
I like that you're bringing the policies and programs into this conversation, because earlier you had spoken about how some of the factors that somewhat seclude these factors. Sometimes these things happen subconsciously, and you have a subconscious bias towards diversity and equity and all of these things that we're talking about this morning. But I wanted to find out how organizations can actually ensure that equity is integrated into their policies and the programs. You spoke about intentionality coming from leadership itself. Where do we start in this regard to ensure that our policies are actually and practices within the organization are actually inclusive in this regard, particularly when we speak on issues of hiring, of promotion, as well as compensation, like you were speaking?
Re buile gantele ka tsone di policy program. So santla se re ka lekang go sira when it comes to organizations ke gore a re nne le something called an equity audit. Ya nong ha ke ha o lebella di policy tsona le tsone o bo lebella implementation ya teng, o bo lebella le gore what is the reality happening in your organization. So equity audit ke yone ka khona go bontsha gore a mo tseleng, are you achieving what you're saying that you want to achieve. And then so sa bobedi ke continuous training. Ha ile gore and maybe you can modify your policies with the help of Deib experts, and then maybe you can even look at getting more training, how because at the end of the day, as much as the leadership has to have that commitment, your employees fully equipped to be able to note when it comes to equity, when it comes to inclusion, and they really have to be embedded in our hiring processes. They have to be embedded also in promotion and compensation, because sometimes a certain group of people are earningless, although ba bereka tiro e one with a certain group of people. So and then it has to be transparent policies. As kana a lot of red tape. Let it be something saying motho ha batla go dibala kana employee batla go dibala batla go itse, or is it the auditors? It's something that is there and it's available.
What would that look like when we talk policies that speak to diversity, equity, inclusivity, and belonging? What exactly can we expect to find within that audit? What exactly are we looking for? Do we want to find a clause that says people of this gender or people of this race from now on will be included within this bracket? What exactly are we looking at when it comes to that?
These are some of the things that we discuss in detail at the Deib Summit. For example, we have some of the organizations that are leading in this particular conversation. For example, Deib will be presenting a case study of how they are managing when it comes to Deib, F&B as well. So it's a more practical conversation of it's something that is still in a theoretical form. But sometimes when we can talk about what diversity and equity would look like at an organizational POV, just for example. I know that when it comes to other organizations and in other countries, we need this percentage of gender equality, we need this percentage of the racial groups, we need this percentage of young people, or this percentage of people living with disabilities, or people who are from the LGBTQI, or people from marginalized communities. So I think it's different right now from country to country, or from region to region and organization to organization. And then this is why we are having this summit. Identifier from a general POV, how would it look like, how this is a diversity policy or a strategy, over and above an organization looking at their audit report and finding that they lag behind when it comes to day, how else can they measure effectiveness of their day initiatives? I think one of the things that they can do is one, cultural competence. The people that you have, are they representing different diversity groups? And then do the leaders that you have in your organization, are they aware of these different cultural ethnicities that have and then how are you communicating it? Is it being effectively communicated within the organization? How are you resolving the conflicts that you have? And sort of the strategic thinking behind it. It's sort of like going back, I just don't want to be technical about it. I'm trying to mince my words. But going back to the culture of Botswana, I know that in the culture of Botswana, we had something called Mahokwa Khotla Amantle Otle. This is a situation where if you're going to put it in organization point of view, everybody has a say. And what everybody has to say within your organization or has to contribute to your organization is equally important. Okay. And I know that a lot of organizations, and I'm glad that you somewhat then shifted to talking about the workplace, because I wanted us to focus on a particular organization that would have similarities, right? And I like that you spoke about the employability space, if you will. And I want to find normally in that respect, we find that organizations have a bottom line of profits. That's what we're about. So why should an organization go out of its way to actually ensure that they implement day initiatives, if you will? Why is it important for an organization to actually have day initiatives? So Santahela, ikana kanya creativity and innovation. Kana, when you're in a diverse group of people, I think one of the beautiful things that can happen is that everybody is either coming from apart from the 5 that I have mentioned when it comes to gender, etc., ethnicity, even skill, diversity in skill, diversity in background, the strategies that you have, the innovative things that you do in your organization, has something unique to bring to the table. And then employee satisfaction, especially the cultural awareness I was talking about when it comes to leaders. Decision kana ha ile gore wa hirwa kana le gore go promotiwa gonna satisfaction batho ha ba tlogele tiro ba nna, and we know the benefits of having employees ba nna lo bakanyana mo tiro. And then so se sengwe gore diversity ra gore le khone go thusa a diverse group of clients, of customers, on a sensitivity of who they are. I think sometimes re khona go bala in the news of things happening in other countries. Hey, I'm a black person, I went to an establishment and I felt uncomfortable because I felt like and you know, when you're having a diverse group of employees, for example, in an organization, they are aware of these cultural sensitivities and cater to a different diverse group of people. And then so social responsibility in your question benefit social responsibility. I think we live in an evolving world where people are very conscious of what they consume and where it comes from. I know people, for example, they wouldn't shop at A compared to B because A either have a corporate social responsibility, they don't care about the environment and they're endorsing certain things. And but when it comes to these things of Ghana, Deib, it's social. I care about social inclusivity, or I care about social justice. But hey,
right. And you know, I want to find out now how easy or difficult this thing could actually be. You were talking about how we live in an evolving world. You know, it keeps changing. And just recently on the show, we're talking about how, you know, companies need to inculcate ESG principles within their policies, within their frameworks. So I want to find out what the challenges and progress is in integrating Day with climate change initiatives in Botswana particularly.
I think so Santla when it comes to the economic side of things, because our organization to do this is it really important. So I think we have to really explain the whole value proposition of it and what your organization will be getting out of implementing these Deib and how it will eventually be increasing your profit. When it comes to either marginalized groups or maybe small companies, when it comes to the bottom line, they are more important than maybe this. So this is why continuous education, the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and continuous awareness and education. That's why we're doing this summit. And then when it comes to progress, I was so excited to read this policy, Yadi, from is it Botswana Sports Council? Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, Botswana National Sports Council. It was so elaborate. It was so beautiful. And organizations can also mirror it. And these are some of the things that can be done when it comes to implementing ESG. And then let's only do corporate responsibility, etc. And like I said, diversity, equity, and inclusion is the S in the ESG. ESG being in environmental, social, and governance.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you are hosting this event. It's happening in 2 days, right? Where is it happening? And for somebody who would like further interaction, maybe to see how they, as an organization, can implement, a day within their principles and within, like, to inculcate initiatives as a day, where can they find you?
This summit, the Botswana Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Summit, will be held at Cresta on the 24th and 25th of July. We're in July, right? This is in 2 days' time, like you said, and you can look Sustainabiz Consulting. You can look for it in social media, on LinkedIn, and get a hold of us, or you can just search for Bitumelo Pauline Marimo, and we can be able to assist you. So we're expecting just 2 days of networking, presenting case studies and lived experiences, and also panel discussions, etc. The situation of day in Botswana, and we have so many day experts in Botswana, people by thing, and then be able to educate at this particular conference.
Very interesting indeed. We also hope that after the conference we will be able to call you back here to help us see some of the resolutions from that 2-day summit. But we wish you all the best of luck, and thank you so much for joining me this morning to have this very important conversation.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And I look forward to coming back with a report.
Absolutely. We will definitely be on your neck about it. Yeah. And that's what we leave it for this morning. We're talking there to Boitumelo Marumo, who's business development and marketing out at Sustainabiz. They have a conference that they're hosting in 2 days that'll be speaking today. So you find them on social media to have an interaction or further interaction with that to find out what exactly will be happening at that 2-day summit. This is all we leave it for now. Coming up at the top of the hour, look out for the news.